The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Jones. I'm the Director of Innovations for the Developmental Disability Administration, Maryland Department of Health. Welcome to our first Tech Tuesday, leading up to our one-year anniversary of being a technology first state on Tuesday, August 15th. The goal of these series is to raise awareness of what is available for people as it relates to assistive technology and technology first. Today, we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Harold Sloves, the Innovations Consultant for Systems specializing in people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. Harold?
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm Harold Sloves. Thank you for being with us today. As Stephanie noted, I work with systems and provider organizations to create new opportunities to achieve their vision for greater independence and self-reliance in their lives, largely due through technology supports and options. This generally involves more than just adding technology as a service for people, but really entails a different way of looking at things, different values, and indeed a culture change. And we'll talk a little bit about that today when we talk about what does technology first mean. But in the meantime, today is meant to be a starting point in your journey, an introduction to enabling technology and remote supports. During this presentation, I'm going to be sharing a particular point of view based on my experience. I spent 5+ years with Tennessee's Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, creating an innovation division, which included enabling technology, but also included employment innovation, which also embraced the role of technology for people to have greater independence, getting to work and keeping work. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, I had the honor of speaking at Maryland's inaugural Technology First conference in August. So Maryland has proclaimed and is officially a technology first state. But what does that exactly mean? What does it mean in terms of daily operations or point of view or vision and that kind of thing? So we're gonna peck away at that today, and we may not get ultimate answers, but I think we'll have a better understanding of exactly what are the implications and what does that mean for me or my loved one or those that we support. Next slide, please. So one of the leading thinkers in our field is Shay Tanna. Shay used to be the co-director of the Cullman Institute, which really was a national leader and thought leader in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities. She's currently a researcher at the University of Kansas, and Shay has been, and when I was back in the days when I was with the state of Tennessee, she was a member of our national consortium. So Shay has come up with a point of view that defines what does technology first mean. And she's right. Technology first began as a movement. And I was certainly proud to be part of that movement. And in fact, I saw that movement akin to a civil rights movement in the sense that we had an opportunity to give people some freedoms that they aspire to achieve. And we needed to continue making these opportunities broadly available to people. But she's also right. It's also a framework for system change where technology is considered first in the discussion of support options available to individuals and families. And she's also right. It's a person-centered approach, and it is about inclusion and self-determination. So Shay really has framed it in a way that really captures what technology first means today. And I think it's a definition that I believe can be operationalized. Okay, next slide, please. So as I mentioned, and as many of you know, of course, Maryland is a technology first state. And as part of that initiative, the state agency, DDA, assembled a task force made up of fellow state agencies and provider organizations, advocacy groups, and stakeholders, families, to ensure that technology is considered a part of all service and support plans for people with IDD. And I really applaud Maryland for going that route, because you need that broad-based constituency getting behind the technology first initiative and effort and process. And I'm going to take 1 second to say something that I wish I said in the previous slide, and that is this, that technology first is less about technology, but it is absolutely about being person-centered. It is about the people that we support, that you support. The technology is a vehicle to get there, but we need to keep our eye on and focus on the people that we support. So Maryland's definition of being a technology-first state means that whenever we encounter a barrier to living an independent, productive, and community-based life in your state, we make sure technology is considered in this discussion of support options. Okay, next slide, please. This technology first thing has been going on for a while. The earliest states to make this proclamation was Ohio, Missouri, Minnesota. These were actually through executive orders by their governor. As you can see, different states are in different stages of this official proclamation. I think, and just to be candid, the proclamation is important. It creates certain mechanisms that the states have to abide by, just as Maryland is an employment first state, and there are certain expectations of that. Being officially proclaimed technology first also brings with it certain expectations as well. But as you see, it is growing. So it's been 6 years since I started this journey. And in that 6 years, the number of states engaging and participating and pursuing has grown. There are some states I know for a fact that are pursuing it that are not highlighted, including Alabama, South Carolina, and New Mexico. So to use the old phrase, the movement is growing. The movement is growing nationally. And again, some of what I'll be talking about today, and particularly some of the terminology I use, may not be Maryland specific. So I want to say that out loud, and also to avoid any unintended confusion. But it does represent the work that I've done in Tennessee and also around the country. All right, next slide, please. So this is really a pretty big deal. And again, I want to emphasize that in this particular slide, what I'm going to talk about with you today is my point of view, my view of the world based on my experience and my work elsewhere. Every state is going to be a little bit different. You have different cultures, different histories, different ways of just doing stuff. So this is not to impose a point of view, but it is to perhaps emphatically share a point of view. So words matter. So monitoring versus enabling. When this all started, And this really started back when I was a provider, by the way, which precedes my work with state governments. It was called remote monitoring. Um, and in fact, one state, and I mentioned Ohio, actually had the waiver service described as monitoring. But ultimately, the bottom line, and this is etched in stone in Harold's world, monitoring is a provider function. Monitoring for some sounds like Big Brother, but monitoring is what providers do, and the technology to monitor is technology that providers use. It could be a supervisory convenience and that kind of thing. That is not what this is about. That is not what enabling technology is about. Very purposely, but the term enabling technology helps tell us that the technologies that we're talking about are used by people to enable them to achieve some of their aspirations for a new level of self-reliance and greater independence. Assistive technology, it's been around for a long, long time. And, you know, a deep, dark secret of mine is that I used to be an occupational therapist. So anything I say today, it's not a shot at OT or any therapy for that matter. But assistive technology is generally understood to be a clinical service, a clinical intervention in which, you know, whether it's built up spoons, utensils, splints, orthotics, prosthetics, wheelchairs, Dynavoxes. I mean, all these things require a clinical assessment, a clinical protocol, and ultimately a physician referral. What we're talking about today, enabling technology, remote supports, they're not clinical services. And people should not have to go through a clinical protocol to access them. And frankly, that's about the last thing in the world we want to do. We want these things to be easy to get, not hard, and not to go through a clinical protocol. There's plenty of things that deserve and merit a clinical protocol. Enabling technology is not one of them. If I want a video doorbell so that I know who's there and I can be safe, I don't need a physician referral to get one, and neither should the people that we support. Next slide, please. All right, so remote support. Now we're going to be in that little bit of a fork in the road where, you know, Harold has one point of view, but Marilyn has a very specific one. And we're going to talk about Maryland's mostly because that's why you're here and that's where you're from and that's where all these great changes are going to occur. Remote supports is a specific waiver service, whereas virtual supports is a modality that can be used to support the delivery of those waiver services. Now, I look at remote support as a direct support in a remote capacity, using a variety of enabling technology. Some of you, and I don't know how Maryland handled this during the height of the pandemic, but I mean, people were using FaceTime for certain assessments, remote assessments, and people using FaceTime in all different ways than before. It was sort of a very fundamental and basic use of telehealth during that time. So certainly we can call FaceTime a type of remote support, but again, and this is going to come up as we talk about Maryland's current waiver definition of remote support. The growing view nationally and certainly in Tennessee is that remote supports can occur in any aspect of a person's life, in any environment or place in their lives that compose or comprise their lifestyle, whether that's walking or going shopping, catching a bus, or being supported at work in lieu of a job coach. So the potential of remote supports, from my perspective, goes beyond where people live. But I mean, to say it very plainly, it's where life occurs. Okay, next slide, please. So we we need to not make this more more exotic than it really is, because the truth of the matter is that many of the technologies we're talking about are already part of most of our lives. To be plain about it, I mean, it is not stuff that any of you don't know about already. I mean, many of us have different kinds of use Alexa or Dot or Echo to control our thermostats, our lights, our TVs. Who among us is not using a GPS on their smartphone to get around? I certainly am. Some of us have sensors in our homes to detect movement. It could be outside, it could be inside, it could be a reminder to say, Harold, you've got something on the stove. You've been gone for 5 minutes. And so that kind of thing, and even task prompting. And I'm going to tell you that this task prompting really has become an evidence-based approach for people that actually is very effective for learning, for people with cognitive disabilities to learn. It could be as simple as having an iPhone or an iPad with a sequence of graphics or pictures to go through a variety of tasks. Or it could be like YouTube, which I use to learn stuff that I want to sort of try. I'm not sure how to do as far as things in my daily life that I'd like to get better at. I mean, YouTube is a prime example of something that's available to all of us that is part of this kind of learning to do stuff through prompting and a sequence of steps. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so we're going to, so today, again, it's sort of a primer, it's a starting point. And so our focus today, not exclusively, but 90% or more, will be focused on enabling technology in action where people live. The possibilities are really pretty substantial. I mean, it could be having sensors on the door in the bathroom in case somebody is there overnight too long and has a safety concern, sends an alert for a remote staff person to make sure the person's okay. It could be used for detecting water. Sometimes stuff gets stuffed in the toilet and there's a flow of water, and that's an issue, and on and on. Home safety and the like. And we're going to talk a good bit about home safety because there's some real fundamental worries that families often have when their loved ones are living in the community, and certainly have the opportunity to have less paid support around them all the time, and even during cooking time. So we're going to talk about safety some as we go forward. All right, next slide, please. One of the, let me just make sure. Yeah, so one of the things that Tennessee did well is develops a couple of enabling technology model homes that gave people an opportunity to touch and see and understand and interact with different technologies in a home environment. So the next two videos you're going to be seeing are drawn from Tennessee's enabling technology model homes to help families and people and anyone who's interested get a decent feel and understanding of what's possible. Okay, please play this next slide. Thank you. One of the important things to remember as we look at that, as we were watching that video, is that there are many people who are in our waiver environment who have mobility issues and physical limitations, as well as some cognitive issues. So the kind of technology options that you just saw are absolutely with those people in mind who just want to have some control over their environment. And what you just saw is an example of how they can do so. Now, the next video you're going to see is going to talk about, going to focus on kitchen safety. I think it's really cool stuff. And so I'm going to get out of the way and please play the next video. Thank you. I really appreciate that particular video because it addresses so many concerns about home safety and cooking safety. And of course, cooking is pretty fundamental to leading a more independent life. So we're going to go to one last video, if you can bear with me on that. This is a story about Brad. I chose this for our presentation today, this video, because of a pretty compelling backstory about Brad's family. And certainly when you get to meet Brad, you'll understand he's certainly has his own challenges. So this really is a story about hope and the role of technology. Now, in this particular video, we see technology being used where Brad works as well. So I just want to let you know that that is part of what you're going to be seeing today. And frankly, this was a video that the department posted on its Facebook page, and it just went viral. It was really amazing. This really touched a lot of people. So if you would, please, would you play Brad's story? Thank you. It's hard not to smile when you see that. All right, thank you. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, so let's let us agree on certain things. Everybody doesn't need everything. A little bit of technology, as you just saw, as a support option, can be extremely impactful. So we're not necessarily talking about a smart home. We're talking about, as I said early on, we're talking about helping people fulfill their aspirations for greater self-reliance and more independence. That doesn't mean direct support staff and paid supports disappear. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that there is a complementary relationship between these technology supports and paid direct supports that will change over time. We've had people who over time needed less technology. We've had people over time need fewer paid staff. Again, this is driven by the person and how they adjust and accommodate the role of technology in their lives. Sometimes that begins with apprehension, but practically, I can't think of an exception. Ultimately, it results in somebody and persons achieving a greater level of independence in their lives. What does that do for the DSP? Well, in many cases, it results in provider organizations being able to reconceptualize the role of DSPs and to create a new job category, the remote DSP, which has some new competencies, a new level on the career ladder, a new rung, I should say, a higher rung, because these DSPs can support people in different locations. And so it also, for the provider, creates new capacity. In the post-pandemic world, I am highly skeptical. Any provider, really, any organization, any employer is going to be very successful in achieving pre-pandemic workforce levels. I don't see it happening. So these remote DSPs are also a way for providers to reestablish capacity and stability. And again, as I mentioned, a new rung on the career ladder for DSPs. But again, please remember, it's not all or nothing. It is a step at a time based on the people you support. Okay, next slide, please. So these are questions that people you are considering might be interested in having some sort of enabling technology or remote support in their lives to achieve some new level of independence somewhere, whether it's home or elsewhere. And so these are questions that I propose can be used for screening purposes to understand where that person is at the time relative to trying enabling technology and remote support. So I'm not going to read it verbatim. I believe you all have access to this soon via the state agency sharing it with you. But again, we have to be mindful of where people are starting. Everyone's not going to be ready. Frankly, there's a fairly significant education and communication process that I heavily endorse and encourage and promote so that everyone in an organization that is providing labor services, whether it's the DSPs, your leaders, your finance guy, families, of course, everybody understands what this is. And that communication, that ongoing education, I think is vital. So that there are those who may say, what? I don't think so. That's not a no. That's a no for now, but that's also an opportunity to teach and communicate and educate. So I believe we're at the end of our journey for today. Next slide, please. We are going to keep going next month and look a little bit deeper at the role of technology for where people live in April. Those of you who do have questions, this presentation will have a link that all of you will have access to, and should you have questions, please email Stephanie, who will be, and her email address will be posted where this particular presentation will be, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you for taking the time, and I will see you next month. Goodbye.